Welcome, beautiful people of the YouTube world. I want to share with you my experiences using the new PreSonus Quantum ES2 audio interface and my 2-year history with the company Focusrite using a couple of their different interfaces, such as the Solo, Scarlett, the Scarlett 2i2 3rd gen for 2 years, and then the Scarlett 2i2 4th gen, multiple units on multiple different computers for 6 months, and how that was a shit show. And basically this saved me from spending potentially thousands of dollars on having to upgrade my computer because I thought that that is what I had to do. So really quick, this thing performs like an absolute beast. This is like the Mike Tyson, the Brock Lesnar, the George St. Pierre of audio interfaces. This is kind of like, I don't know. I'm not too sure what I would compare to, but it was a great product. But the main problems that I had with the 3rd gen was the high latency. Even though I didn't really notice it, I couldn't go below 192 block size, buffer size. As you can see here, I'm at a whopping 64, and I'm having no issues here using the universal control for PreSonus. So I had no issues with the 3rd gen or the Solo. It just worked great. But then the 4th gen came out, which is what we're looking at here. It has the inputs in the back for the microphone, which I preferred. Funky LED light, multicolored, letting you know when you're clipping. Everything's in the front, just clean. It's slick. It looks sexy. And I thought to myself, let's upgrade. But from day one, my sound would drop out multiple times a day on an interval of about 3 to 4 hours. So if I was at my computer 12, 13, 14 hours a day, I would absolutely just lose sound completely, 100%. I would have to go into the settings at the bottom, and I would have to either toggle on or off loopback just to share with you how I would work around that issue, and then my sound immediately came back. So that, to me, was just frustrating. And then I went to Long and McQuaid, spoke to an assistant manager. He was incredibly kind. And he's like, you know what, man, let's just hook you up with something in the same price range. This is only $30 more Canadian. So this is 290 Canadian. This is 320 Canadian. So this is about $211 US, because most of my folks, my peeps on YouTube are American. So this is about 210 US-ish. And this is about 232 US. So it's not a lot of extra money. It's in the same price range, in that same financial bracket. So yeah, so performance on this, reliability for me, with all due respect, it's just better on this product. You could potentially have this and say, bruh, I got no problems, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, I'm not saying it's a shit product. I'm sharing with you my personal experience. Synergistically, my PC and this 4th gen Scarlett 2i2 are junk. Neither product is junk. The synergy between them is junk. Like I said, I had no problems with my 3rd gen, despite the fact that I couldn't go below 192 kilohertz. On this one here, we don't have a 192. It's 256, 128. Whereas on the other one, there's 256, 192, there's 160. Like, you have more, they call it block size here with PreSonus, or buffer size. You have less options in the increment. But like I said, I was like, oh, let's try 64. Let's be a tough guy. And so far, it's working out for me. Now, some of the features really quick, if we want to get into that. I mean, some of the differences you could see here, you know, if you do need extra power, you could put the 5 volt. I never needed the extra power, although I tried it. It made no difference. It starts off with right then left. Whereas on this one here, you're just shown the number. So I thought, maybe this will be right and left. But I was like, nah, it makes sense for it to be left and right. And I was correct. So I wish they would have had an L here and an R here. Otherwise, you can't really tell. At least I can't tell. This is how it's connected to my computer. I don't need the additional power. But speaking of additional power, you can turn off the power to this interface. You cannot do that with any of the Scarletts. That, as far as I know, there's no power button. You can't do it. Okay. So is that needed? Not necessarily. I never had an issue leaving mine on for a couple of years. But I like options. This is if you want to connect it into like a mobile device, something like an iPad, Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what that's for. MIDI in and out, you probably know what that means. I vaguely know what that means. I have my microphone personally on the second one here, XLR Shure SM7B. Good for me. I have it in the second one only because I do play guitar. And when you play guitar, you can see here faintly, there's a number 1. So this will automatically be your number 1. Now, coming to this, looking at just the one knob, I started to panic a little bit. I was like, how's that going to work? Because this thing's got a separate knob with the shiny LED light if you're clipping for input 1, input 2. The master output, the headphones volume, each thing has its own volume. Well, that's okay. So as you can see here, the light is blue. If you tap the headphones, it turns green. So then adjust what you want your headphone volume to be at, then push it back, either go back to main or hit the headphone button again. You'll go back to blue, which is the regular one. Then if you want to set your levels for, let's say input 1 for your guitar, you tap 1, then this will light up white. Turn the knob to what you want, or you could just do it within the thing here. As you can see, I gave myself an extra 25 gain with the 48 volt phantom power, I think they call it, for my Shure SM7B. It's now in the second track. That's why you could see it, going up and down. And then this is now my guitar, right? So you can kind of check what the levels are when you're playing around with the knob. But instead of having the funky LED lights that are multicolored, you'll simply just have a solid blue color. I don't know if you could change the color of this. There's a colorize option. I'm not too sure what that does. But if you clip into the red, it'll show you red if you end up clipping. So again, instead of having that LED light that changes colors going around, you have it here. The other thing to note here is kind of like on a 45-degree angle, 40-degree angle. I don't really know the angle, to be honest with you. It's on an angle. And that is going to be a preference as to whether or not you prefer that look, everything just slammed down on an angle, or if you like this. I won't lie. I think I still prefer this. Maybe it's because that's all I've ever known. Scarlett Solo, Scarlett 2i2, 3rd gen, then 4th. Those are the only audio interfaces I've ever played with. Everything's just in the front. But because I'm kind of sitting a bit taller than my desk, it was kind of like down. It's not like this was right in my face. So this look here kind of works better for me. However, from a look perspective, I'm just being honest, I think I may prefer this. It's got the auto select, so you would tap that button, you would select between the two. Whereas this here, it has its own dedicated button for 1 and 2. And it's just so simple. So yeah, it's an extra click. It's an extra action. Headphone button, then volume. Whereas here, it's just volume right away, right? If you want to change the input gain on 1 and 2, you just go to it right away. Here, you got to hit the button. It's an extra step. I'm just being blunt. I'm not a paid promotional advertiser for any of these products. I just call a spade a spade. I'm not really a fanboy of either brand. I'm just a fanboy of using an audio interface. I feel like everybody should use one. Even if you're just a gamer and you're doing some light stuff, it's absolutely amazing using like an XLR microphone and having your own dedicated sound for your computer. That's just my opinion. So I'm a fanboy of these devices as a whole, but because of my own personal experience, it's hard for me not to gravitate more towards this one because it just performs much, much better. 64, and I haven't even clipped at 32 when I tried the 32 block size, which is the same thing as buffer, like I said. So it's hard for me not to favor this one when the other one, like I said, I couldn't go below 192, and my sound would cut out multiple times a day on the 4th gen, never happened on the 3rd gen. So those were kind of two things that were like, you're out. I didn't even wait for 3 strikes, you're out. It was like 2 strikes, you're out. This thing is just blowing me away. It really is. The main takeaway of this video is don't just settle for the Scarletts as an entry-level audio interface. There's not a lot. There's not a plethora, a cornucopia, a quiver of audio interfaces for around this price range. And I was stuck when I was like, what am I going to get? Well, this is new. And like I said, it's just working great for me. It might not look as flashy and as fancy as this. The name itself for many people may not be as well known. Maybe it is to you. Maybe it isn't. For me, it wasn't. Everything's usually Focusrite, Focusrite, Focusrite. Okay. Or people have heard of like the Apollos and the RME baby faces, but those are like almost like quadruple digit audio interfaces. Those are like super expensive. Like I said, this is about $230 US, like I said, and this is pushing around, you know, the $210 US mark. So in the early 200 US-ish dollar, or early 300s if you're talking Canadian currency, which is probably like not even one viewer on my channel. This is something that you should take into consideration. I would advise, truthfully, if you can, buy both, try both, and see how it performs. The only thing that I really hate, and I don't know if hate is too strong of a word for this, is when I look down here, I don't see what my round trip latency is. Now, I know that there's a chart that you can look at, so that probably doesn't matter because you could probably just look at the chart and it'll tell you what it is. Like I said, for me, 192, it was like 19.3 ms. But when you're something as low as like 64, like I'm doing, you're guaranteed to be under that magic number that a lot of people try to aim for, which is 10 milliseconds. And when I play guitar, it's very snappy. It was very snappy on this too. But if I drop the bit rate too low, like I said, I would get some audio anomalies in my recording only. Whereas with this one, I just don't get that. So whether it's the microphone or my guitar through something like John Petrucci's Neural DSP plugin, there's a bunch of other ones by Neural DSP, this just performs better. Don't dismiss it because it's not at the front line and center of budget entry-level interfaces, is my point. This is usually the main go-to. And I'm not saying not to try it, but I want you to remember the takeaway of this video, that I had just not that great of an experience overall with multiple units on multiple computers. But at the same time, I'm not trashing the company, but I'm absolutely praising this one big time. So hopefully this was a semi-useful video. Believe it or not, it's actually my second time recording it. I was hoping to make this video shorter than the first one. Ended up actually being longer by a couple minutes. Kind of really backfired there, but I just can't condense it any smaller. I really feel like all those little pieces of details that I threw in were just very important to mention. So this performs better. No drop sound whatsoever. No drop sound. Helps if I could speak properly. Consider it potentially in your next purchase is all I'm saying. If you're thinking of this, just keep this in the back of your mind as a worthy competitor to it. Thumbs up if you like the video. It does greatly help support that channel with the algorithm and trying to make me more relevant in search results, and people are looking shit up on the internet. We see how well that's been going. And if you didn't like the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs down. I'll bend it in half, twist it, and I'll just break it off inside your rectum. And if you want to subscribe to the channel after all those wonderful things I said could happen to you, I mean, naturally, that would be pretty fucking fantastic now, wouldn't it? But if not, trust me, I don't blame you. Thanks for stopping by anyways. Take care, and if I'm lucky, maybe I'll see some of you in the next one. Bye for now.